From the beautiful campus of Casper College, it's the T-Birds Coaches Show, bringing you game breakdowns, expert analysis, and exclusive interviews. Here's your host, Tom Myler.
Hello, T-Bird fans, and welcome back. It's been a while, but we're glad to have Coach Tom Parks back here with us, back in the studio again. We're going to be talking some basketball, so welcome back, Coach.
Thanks. It seems like a whole new year.
I would absolutely agree. A whole new year plus a couple of weeks.
Yeah, no, for sure.
You know, for a while there, I was seeing you like every day, and then now I just don't see you. So, I was missing you there for a minute.
Yeah, the weather dipped to the Arctic tundra levels, and I've been on strict orders to stay in the gymnasium. But I've been out this week because it's like 40 degrees.
It was heat wave.
So, yeah, I wore shorts yesterday. I feel like a true Wyomingite wearing shorts at 40 degrees in January.
That's about on par with a true Wyomingite.
Yeah.
Or a 4-year-old that refuses to wear pants.
Yeah, my kids, like my oldest, who's 7, he absolutely hates wearing a winter jacket. And he doesn't understand that you need to wear a winter jacket when it's 20 degrees outside. So we're getting there.
Maybe one day.
Yeah, maybe one day.
One day. All right. Well, let's talk some basketball. We had a pretty good week last week, and we'll talk specifically about the Gillette game because that one was just a crazy good game. But let's first talk about the Western Wyoming game.
For sure.
You go in, you beat them by 20-some points. Let's talk the good, the bad, and what can be improved.
Well, I think, the biggest thing right now is our guys are not taking any game or any opponent for granted. And Western Wyoming is a good team. I mean, they've have some good wins on the year. They played Gillette really tough. 2 days after we played them, they played Gillette. And they were up 6 with like 2 minutes left and eventually ended up losing by 3 or 4 points. Wow. But they had Gillette on the ropes, and Gillette kind of made every play they needed to do to win the game. But they're a good team, and Coach Sosa has been doing a good job in this region. I mean, he's won the North, he's won the region. He's done some really good things. So we know that was a game that we can't take for granted. And I think outside of one game on the entire year, I don't think we've taken any opponent or game for granted. And so I think that's a sign of a good team, because at the end of the day, like, the results are important, but we can't really waste opportunities to get better. And playing against someone else is a great opportunity to get better.
Absolutely, and especially now where games are really starting to matter since you're in conference play. And I know you've already had 4 games, 6 games total, 6 games total just this year.
Yes. But
4 games now total in conference play. And so, I mean, we won't talk and go too far back, but just last week and the week before you went 2-0. Last week was 2-0, so now you're 4-0. Just because you beat Gillette, you're now leading the conference, but anything can happen.
Yeah, and I think, our kind of going back to that Western Wyoming game, we just did a really good job at executing our game plan. Like, we really wanted, obviously we pressed, but we really wanted to crank up the pressure in the half court as well. Mm-hmm. They want to run sets, they want to get the ball inside, and we kind of wanted to make that as difficult as possible for them. And our guys did a really good job doing that. And they seemed kind of flustered, like we took them out of what they wanted to do, and it just kind of spiraled. And we were able to take our starters and kind of primary rotation guys out with like 12 minutes left in the second half. And the next group that came in did a really good job extending the lead to the point where we didn't have to put them back in the game. So they got some rest in a very, we played 3 games in 5 days, and we knew Gillette was coming up, so kind of got a little extra rest that maybe we didn't anticipate. But they did a great job. And anytime you can win anywhere on the road in our region, it's a good win, because there's no quote-unquote easy place to play, whether it's the trip that you got to take, or whether it's the environment that you play in, or whether it's the lighting or the rims or whatever. It's just hard when you're playing somewhere that you're not used to playing, especially when you add on a few hours bus ride over there. So
in Western Wyoming, 4.5 hours is what you're looking at. And so it's definitely not an easy bus ride.
For sure.
And I guess since we're talking about bus ride, what do you like to do on those long bus rides to kind of keep your players focused, maybe?
Ooh, that's a good question. I like listening to audiobooks. I mean, I listen to books more than I actually read books, just because I feel like I have more time in cars and on buses and stuff. I mean, I can read on a bus, but I got a nice little Audible subscription, and nice. I got to use my credits up. And But yeah, I do that. I don't really sleep, especially before the game. It's just too difficult. Usually hit up Natural Grocers, a little free endorsement there, for some nice healthy snacks. Because if not, then I go to the gas station. I get a bunch of stuff that's not good for me. So I've been doing that recently. Maybe watching some film, making some recruiting texts or something like that. But I try to stay busy.
That's good. Now, what would you say your players do? Are they the ones usually sleeping, being rowdy, having fun?
They sleep. They sleep. I can tell you after the games, especially if we win, it's maybe rowdy for like 5-10 minutes. Maybe if we stop and get food, like they'll be messing around a little bit. I mean, it's not too crazy. Most of them sleep. Most of them put their headphones on, listen to music, watch a video or something. But it's a pretty quiet bus ride, to be honest.
It's not bad. That's why you can listen to audiobooks.
I can listen to audiobooks. I can get some work done. I try to take advantage of the time. I mean,
right.
especially before the game, I have a hard time sleeping before a game. I just have too much on my mind. So
totally get it. Yeah, that mental preparedness. And I mean, it worked out against Western Wyoming. It worked out great. I mean, just looking at some of the stats, sticking around that above 40% most things. Man, it's the free throws though. It's just still kind of in that 50-60% range. That's got to be like just kind of irritating. I don't know if it's necessarily like you're angry about it. It's just like, hey, we can be better about that.
I saw some. I don't remember who the coach was, but it kind of made perfect sense, and it's kind of the philosophy that I've always had. I mean, once we start talking about free throws, we're going to miss more of them. We shoot a lot of them. Fortunately, we rebound the ball really well. And I think the other thing about free throws is, I think as a team, we're like 67%, which isn't great, and we talked about if we were 74%, which is the top third of Division I teams, like what that would have done in certain games.
Yeah.
However, I think there's a lot of factors that help you win or lose games. Free throws is definitely one of them. I think the fortunate thing is we shoot a lot of free throws.
Yes.
So even though we don't make a ton of them percentage-wise, we usually have more makes from the line than the other team, even if they shoot a better percentage, just because we attack the basket so well and we get so many offensive rebounds. So, I mean, it's definitely something I would love to see us do a better job at. But, we've done mental work with it. We shoot free throws a lot. We make our guys make 50 a day. And it's just one of those things that, like, in a game, I can't really put too much pressure because then they step up to the line and are like, oh, my gosh, I got to make this. Right. Coach is going to be on me about it. And I just don't know how well that works out either. So,
right. Well, I think this is a great segue because I feel like rebounding and your just the pure amount of free throws, I think there's like 27 that you had the opportunity to take total against Gillette.
Right.
And that rebounding, the offense rebounding, and the free throws really is what made that difference in that 1-point win.
Yeah, I mean, the nice part is I think we've now officially made rebounding part of our identity. Now that we're 21 games in or something like that. 21. I know I was a little nervous early on in the year. I mean, we did a good job on the glass, like a few games, but when you have a small sample size and you maybe play 6 games and there's a couple where you do get out rebounded, it's a little nerve-wracking. But I think we've really seen us win games because of rebounding, and because of it, I think we've continued to do it. And that was something that we had talked about not just before the game in our pregame talk, but also the whole week leading up to it. It's like there's a lot of things you can't control in the game of basketball. There's a lot of you can't control calls that are made. You can't control. You can shoot a great shot and you can still miss that shot. You can be dead straight and be off by a half an inch, and that could be the difference in the going in the basket or not. And so but you can control how many times you go to the offensive glass. You can control how many times you're aware on the defensive end if someone's crashing the glass and putting a body on someone and blocking them out. And so I think our guys have really done a good job at making that important. And like I said, I think part of it is because we've seen the success that we've had and the games that we've won because of it. Because we've had close games where we've shot terrible and not made free throws and turned the ball over, but we are up 20 on the glass and we win. And then we've had games where we have shot the ball really well. We've taken care of the ball. We've shot well from the free throw line and we dominate the glass, and all of a sudden we're winning by 40. And so I think it's to me, rebounding is the biggest indicator on if you're going to win games or not. I mean, the more possessions you can have and the fewer possessions you can allow your team, I mean, it's pretty simple math, but as coaches, we always overcomplicate everything. So I'm not going to overcomplicate that one.
People always keep telling me when you put the hoop or the ball in the hoop and score more points than the other team, you usually win.
Yeah, you do. And when you rebound, you have more opportunities to do that. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, this Gillette game, though, and it looked like a great crowd. So thank you, Casper.
Yeah,
we love the support. I don't know how many lead changes, ties within that game, but holy cow. I think you guys started off with, some like 6-point lead, and then they come back and then they get a lead. It was just back and forth, and it comes down to 0.2 seconds left on the clock.
Right.
0.2, holy cow. And then it actually ran, I think it was Nate Sasser, I'm pretty sure, either that or it was Ose, I can't remember which one, that when they inbounded it with 0.2, the tip almost went in.
Yeah, our guys give me a hard time because sometimes I black out in the games, right? Not trying to give anything away to the other coaches, but, at the end of the game, man, I mean, there's, you see all these plays that are ran, and as coaches, I do a lot of research. So I was talking to somebody, and this was months ago, and they said, hey, the reason this team won the region championship, it was a team in our region. He's like, it's because we have this binder. It's got all these plays in it. And so like you can quick reference something. And there's certain plays that like are go-to plays that I do this and that, but so many situations are so different, right? And so I have this binder. I rarely look at it. And I didn't look at it for this play. And I knew that, and it was almost like 0.2 seconds. You're like, takes a miracle, right?
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
I mean, even
you touch the ball.
You touch the ball, and even if the clock starts early, like that's it, And so, I mean, you can't catch the basketball. You literally have to touch it. And we can go back to replay and see if the ball was still on the fingertips when the red lights go off. And so, I told our guys after the game, I said, hey guys, I didn't even have to look at the notebook for that one. And I don't know if there just wasn't as much pressure because I'm like, what are the chances? But I thought our guys executed the play really well, and then. We were fortunate that they kind of made a mistake.
Yeah, big mental mistake.
Basically, one of the only things that could have allowed us to win the game was what happened. So,
which, I mean, watching the live stream and listening to Jack know, because it's just like, hey, what happened? And then finally, after 10 minutes of kind of figuring out everything, it's like, oh, intentional foul. Ethan Connor's going to the line, makes his first one. They're like, okay, you're good. And then game.
That was it, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it was a very interesting way to win. I will say, and again, I would assume probably even at this point that, Gillette probably after watching it realizes it too. But, I mean, it was a pretty clear foul, and it was pretty clear that it was flagrant and it was above the shoulders. And, I mean, Ethan Connery took a whole arm and elbow and hand of, to his face and kind of got thrown to the ground. And, I told Paul Marble this, our athletic director, after the game, that I'll probably never complain about instant replay again,
right.
Because it got us 0.2 on the clock and then it forced them to make the call. And we said that like it had to be a pretty obvious call for them to make it. And when you go back and watch it, it's a pretty obvious call, and it's, I mean, it would have been a fun 5 minutes overtime, but
oh yeah,
I was also very glad we didn't have to play another fun 5 minutes overtime.
Oh yeah, knowing you're stressing out until the clock hits 0. So the fact that there would possibility of an overtime, it's like, oh, coach is just over there shaking.
Yeah, I kind of assumed that we were gonna. That's what I told our guys. I'm like, hey guys, like the chances that anything comes out of this is rare because I didn't see it in live play. Like I'm watching, like most people, I'm watching the ball.
Yeah.
Right, and then I see Ethan on the ground. He's like, coach, they need to look at that. So I just listened to Ethan. I was like, hey, can you guys look at that? And I mean, they one of them must have seen something because there was no hesitation. Sometimes I have to fight the officials on like, you should review that. And they kind of were like, no, we got you. We're going to go look at it. And so that's one of the few instances where an official can look at a play if a call wasn't made. Most of the time, you can only review a play if a call was made. But anything flagrant-wise or intentional-wise, they can go back and look at that without actually making a call. And so we kind of got fortunate in that sense because if it was just a common foul, they couldn't go back and say, well, he fouled him, so he's going to shoot a 1-and-1. Like that wasn't the case. So very, very weird circumstances, but I believe in basketball gods. I think they're real.
Yeah.
I've seen too many things through, coaching where, again, I feel like we just approach the game the right way. I feel like we have respect for our opponents. I feel like we practice hard. I feel like we're really locked in and we're focused. Again, I think we treat people the right way, and I think ultimately, like, we just, something happened with .2 on the clock that allowed us to win the game in regulation.
Yeah.
So
absolutely great win. And thank you for explaining why they were able to go back and look at
Yeah.
that, because honestly, I don't necessarily understand completely when they can look at it. And
it's a lot of stipulations, really. I mean, most of the time, like I said, a call has to be made. But that's like the rare circumstance where a call doesn't have to be made. And, it was fortunate that it happened before anyone touched the ball too, right? Because if someone would have touched the ball and then it would have happened after regulation. So there's a chance that we could have shot free throws to start overtime, but because it happened before anyone touched it. So there's a lot of weird little stipulations again, and it's just a very unique way. I've never seen a game end like that. Yeah. But it's also a good teaching point for us in the future. Like, if we're in that situation and roles are reversed, it's like, hey guys, like, just don't foul. Yeah, have your hands up, like nothing, like don't even take a chance, because again, that's one of the few ways that you could lose that game. But I don't know, our guys fought, man. Like you said, it was a fun game. I mean, there was 20 lead changes and 15 ties, and I think the majority of those were in the second half. And so, I mean, I just remember about 2 minutes left in the game, and this is what I told our guys after the game. Like, sometimes you play such a good game. It's not to say that we didn't make mistakes, but we stayed together. We figured things out. We battled back. They went on a run to start the second half. We battled back. And I'm just looking at the clock, and there's like 2 minutes left in the game. And I'm sure they were up or we were up 1 or 2, or however the game was going. And, I was just very proud of the way that we played and the way that we prepared. And as a coach, like, I think sometimes the guys think I'm full of it, but really, to me, it's not about the result, right? It's about how you play. And so you want to win every game, but if a team beats you and you play good, like, you can't be upset with your team, right? And I thought both teams were really, really good that night. And so I was prepared that if we didn't win, like, there was not going to be any, like, upset, if we would have got back in transition this time, or that, like, it was one of those things where we would have watched the film and it would have been a little tougher film to watch. But ultimately, I was just proud of the way our guys fought and played and prepared, and so just glad we won.
Yep. Played great, ended up with a W. Can't ask for anything more than that. So let's look at this next week, or I guess this week is where we're at. You're on the road again, which is a bummer. There is the live stream though. Our region is pretty good about having that on YouTube.
They are, for sure.
You're going against Eastern Wyoming first, and then on Saturday, then you're LCCC. So what can we expect here against Eastern Wyoming?
They're significantly better than last year. They're really well coached. They got a new coach, a guy that's been doing it for a long time. He's done it at our level for a long time, probably much tougher situations than his job at Eastern Wyoming. They're very disciplined. They play hard. They're good on defense. They're never going to quit. I mean, they had Northwest, I think, is a really good team, and it was a tie game with a minute left. Last week. East Torrington's not an easy another place to drive and get off the bus and smell some cow poop and then go and play the game. So, but yeah, I mean, it's not an easy place to play. And I told our guys yesterday, like, you already have a target on your back because you're Casper.
Yep.
You have more of a target on your back now. Everyone's going to want to kind of take you off the top, and but I told our guys, it's not about, like, no one had a goal, let's beat Gillette College. Like, that was never a goal that we set forth, in the beginning of our season. So I hate to say it, but for us, it was just another game. I know the fans probably put more into it, and this Eastern Wyoming game is just as important as the Gillette game when you look at the grand scheme of things and the opportunity to potentially host the region tournament. You got to keep winning. You got to keep taking care of business. So they are good. LCCC is good. LCCC probably has 3 of the best scorers in our region. They have a freshman, one of the best freshmen in the country, makes a lot of threes. They shoot a lot of threes. They have 2 returners that are second, third in scoring. I mean, they got 3 guys that flirt with 20 points per game, and so it'll be interesting. I don't think they have the size that we have, but LCCC's, at least my time as a player, coaching at Sheridan and then coaching here, LCCC's never fazed by who you are, and they're going to go out and compete every night, and Coach Salisbury as an assistant and a head coach has been in the league for like 17 years or something, so like he has a lot of experience in this region. He's beat Casper plenty of times. And so I don't know. I mean, it's definitely going to be 2 very difficult games on the road, but 2 winnable games, and so we just got to keep making the main thing and rebound and take care of the ball and, play hard and with great energy and support each other. So.
Well, I think that kind of answers my next question about what was going to be the key to success, but I think we're going to get a repeat of rebounding.
Just you could just, Zach, you can edit that, just play that one again. No, but really, that's really what the game comes down to, especially when you have the pieces to be able to dominate the glass, and we do. But, and it's, I guess there's one key I didn't say. Again, it's like not taking a game, or an opponent for granted. It's easy to look at a lot of these teams' overall records and things like that, but so much happens throughout the year.
Right.
And we've talked about ultimately, you want to be playing really good basketball in February and end of February and going into March. And, there's a bunch of talent on both these teams that we're going to play and all the teams in the region. So, ultimately we have to just keep getting better. And I think you only do that if you don't take an opponent for granted and approach it every game's like a region championship kind of game. And that's what we need to do, so that fortunate enough to get to that point, we've already mentally prepared for that every single night we've came on the court. So
love it. Well, we appreciate having in here, Coach. We're looking forward to this weekend. Remember, they're going to be on the road, so you can watch them online. If you're not subscribed to our emails, make sure you are, because that's where you're going to get all the information.
Yeah, good emails.
Stay up to date. And obviously some cool pictures, because we've got some great talent here that can take some awesome pictures of your players.
Absolutely.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we love you. We'll see you next time.